March 13th, 2020. For many of us, the end of the world as we knew it. Since then, the coronavirus pandemic has affected nearly every aspect of our lives, and the performing arts are no exception. With in-person performances cancelled for the foreseeable future and consumer spending on performing arts down 33-fold, many companies have been forced to close temporarily or even permanently. In 2020, third-quarter unemployment rates were over 50% for actors and dancers, and companies around the country lost more than half their employees between January and August, according to PBS reports. But throughout this, there have been glimmers of hope as the shows, in their own ways, are going on. From opera recitals inside circus tents to one of Broadway's highest-grossing musicals being streamed on Disney, to dance classes inside socially distanced bubbles, to our school's virtual choir performances, these are the performing arts during the pandemic.
Obviously, there's a lot of different downsides to having this pandemic and a lot of different things that were affected, but I don't think anyone has really stopped to think how it affected the arts outside of the people in the arts themselves.
There is recognition that specifically live theater in particular is any sort of live performance is really in a precarious position. There is no denying that huge and monumental performance spaces are having to adjust, and there is a question as to whether or not they will be able to come back with the same kind of vigor under which they were operating in prior. So I think that we are in a difficult position as far as what coming back and rebuilding and reestablishing looks like. But I'm also a believer that the arts have lasted for millennia and that they will continue. But what that will look like will change.
Back at the beginning of March, it seemed like we were safe.
We just found out that this thing called COVID-19 had come up, and we were like, ooh, what is that?
But as things started to shut down, live in-person performances, the backbone of performing arts, were one of the first things to go.
New rules will go into effect 5 o'clock on Friday, except for the Broadway theaters in Manhattan, where it will go into effect 5 o'clock today. Yes, that's only several hours.
You know, I feel like almost like it spiraled very quickly. We were in March, we had just finished our winter production. So we had just closed The Velveteen Rabbit. And then it turned into, well, actually, we're going to not do these programs. We're just going to be on hold for a little while and see if it goes away. And then it was get your stuff from your office and go, because we're shutting down the facilities.
I knew that we weren't going back in, just in terms of because of like the rise of cases, the county getting a little freaked out, and then like with subtle updates about how they were like, okay, we need to shut things down, try to contain, and come back in like 2 weeks. Obviously that didn't happen.
It definitely felt like, I think a grieving process. I think a little bit of a sense of loss. Of sort of like, wait, I wasn't done. We weren't done, you know, like, that was, the timing was sort of odd. It was for applause. It was like mid-season. So we didn't get to finish. And, instead we just kept on going and, you know, trying to do some behind the scenes planning for the program that I don't normally get to do. Has been kind of cool, but you know, we're at some point, you know, and hopefully we'll be stronger because we'll have a lot of extra tools that we didn't have before.
Despite the challenges, people have continued to create and perform art. It looks a little different during the pandemic, but the meaning behind it doesn't change.
Not even a pandemic is going to stop the arts. And there's nothing that is going to keep people from creating. And, we already talked about that resiliency, but, I think that this is, even more said by the amount of amazing examples. I think you probably remember the headlines of like people singing in Italy off of their balconies to each other and things like that. Like that is such a triumph of the human spirit to me that, we need these things. We need that outlet. We need that expression. And, Those are just beautiful examples.
I want us to recognize that art is not limited to a space. Creation is not limited to a physical space. It is limited to a mindset and whether or not you are willing to work within the space that you are given, whether it is small, whether it is large, whether it is your backyard or the park or wherever you are, your art is only limited by your perspective.
I think creativity is such like a flexible idea that you can really take it and go anywhere with it. And there's so many ways to like retry and recreate that you have options to redo or restart or do something really great that could be a really good impact or a bad one. But from that bad one, you can gain experience and then learn how to reapproach things differently.
Performing arts companies have had to approach things quite differently indeed. Take the Atlanta Opera. Their Big Tent series, marketed as a new kind of opera for a time, has a series of socially distanced outdoors performances inside a giant circus tent, and it's done well with audiences. While some modified their venues by going outdoors, reducing capacity, creating drive-in spaces, or seeking alternative shows, others moved completely digital. In a notable example, record-breaking, award-winning musical Hamilton started streaming on Disney Plus last July, and it's gained them hundreds of thousands of new subscribers, a 74% increase according to Forbes, showing the promise that lies in these alternative performance spaces. Other shows have followed suit, with The Prom hitting Netflix in December. Smaller, independent artists have also found success in online platforms, which provide greater accessibility and are available to a wider audience. At our school level, we've had virtual choir recitals, informal performances, and plans for an online live stream play this spring.
I think it's really valuable to see the pursuit of people that are still hungry to make it happen. And that's been the coolest thing, that, you know, people practicing in their backyards and singing in their bedrooms. And, you know, I just think that it's so cool that people come through something like this and still put in the hard work because they love something. And that's been the most endearing thing to watch throughout this entire pandemic, is just how wonderful people can be in the worst times that we might see in humanity currently in modern history.
The passion behind creating art and the community that it provides, these aren't things that the pandemic can take away. Arguably, they're the most important aspects, and learning these core principles is still a focus of performing arts education today.
So one of the things that makes Applause special, I think, is that it is a given that kids are going to learn about theater in our program. We're called Applause Carey Youth Theater. And the way we go about that is really using the theater arts as a vehicle to help teach social emotional learning to kids and help with creative youth development. So encouraging kids to learn how to develop creative ideas and share those ideas, discuss those ideas, and implement those ideas with others. And then how that affects their sort of whole person growth in terms of self-confidence and self-esteem and problem solving and collaboration and all kinds of things.
We are here in classes to learn how to create good art. And so that for me has not changed. The format in which we engage has. So a lot of my goals have been to still allow students to work collaboratively. I do not expect to make lifelong performers or lifelong technicians. I expect to create students who can consciously engage with intention and who can appreciate the work of others no matter their situation. And so the heart of what I do has not changed. The number of tabs that I do it in on a computer now and my second monitor has changed.
So performances have gone virtual and classes are happening online. On the surface, the world of performing arts has completely upended, but at the core, the values that are taught and engaged with are the same. However, the mark the pandemic has made is unquestionable, and the legacy it leaves is yet to be seen.
With COVID-19, because we're not working at all, because we've had to sort of adapt to do different things, and we're unable to do the thing that we spend 90% of our life doing, It's time for reflection. The problem that everyone's focusing on now is the problems exactly that we're focusing on. How do we treat people equally? How do we make sure that people are heard? And yeah, I think that's going to be the lasting impact.
With time to reflect, it's possible to see the light that has come out of these unprecedented circumstances. Performing arts communities have come together and shown incredible resilience and adaptability in the face of tremendous obstacles. Since there's been this threat to the thing that so many of us value so deeply, its importance has only become more clear.
Art is honestly one of the most important things to society, even though it's often overlooked, because no matter how much money your profession earns you, at the end of the day, you go back to your art to feel better and to comfort you or to feel even happier. You always rewatch your favorite movies, and whenever you're feeling sad or you're feeling especially happy, you listen to your favorite songs. And art is just such a big part of our lives, and we don't even realize it, how much stuff it's gotten us through. But without art, society wouldn't be where it is today.
I look at it as just the ultimate human activity. We all need something that's going to push our boundaries a little bit and force us to think in a new way. And so I really feel that way about the performing arts, that they really push people to branch out from their comfort zones. And I think there's a lot of growth that can be found in discomfort. And so I think that it's just one of the most human things that you can do to grow and to think in new and creative ways and to represent yourself and express yourself as a person and find yourself in a lot of ways and figure out how to deal with conflict and happiness and sadness and every emotion in the book. And it's just a purveyor of being a human.
Art is something that we all need, now more than ever. Despite great challenges, the performing arts have continued to grow and create during the pandemic, cultivating art, empathy, and community. As a closing message, now is a great time to support any artists that you follow, whether it's through monetary donations or simply actively engaging with the content that they create. I hope you enjoyed seeing this snapshot into performing arts during the COVID pandemic, and I hope that you're happy and safe. A special thanks to the people featured here that made this documentary possible, and thank you for watching. Have a nice day.